So it's 2022. This year is going to mark the 20-year anniversary of one of the most important and impactful albums of my life. In 2002, The Roots dropped their 5th album, Phrenology. They released their single, The Seed 2.0, the following year, which is a track that I really enjoyed. But it wasn't until I saw a commercial on MTV2 that really brought my attention to the feature on that track. And this was my real true first introduction to Cody ChesnuTT. The commercial I saw on MTV2 was like this new artist promo that they used to do periodically. I remember specifically because Tech from Real World Hawaii was in the commercial saying that the album was off the chain. And I was a big fan of Tech. He used to get all the girls and he was just the coolest guy on the show. So if he said it was off the chain, I gotta hear this record. So for an entire year, I went from record store to record store trying to locate this record until I finally found it at the mall at an FYE. In between trying to track down the album, I did a lot of research on trying to find out more about Cody ChesnuTT. And the more that I found out, the more I became fascinated with the artist. I learned that he was originally from Atlanta and had moved to LA to go make music. At some point, he became tied with Suge Knight and started writing pop songs for Death Row. Although the songs he wrote with Death Row were never released, he did form a band called The Crosswalk, and they signed to a label called Hollywood Records. Although the band wrapped up an album, the record label had a real tough time trying to find out how to market them. This led to the album being shelved, they got dropped from the label, and eventually they broke up. This led Cody into a period of desperation, where he goes back to his LA apartment with nothing but a 4-track, a pair of headphones, and a series of his own instruments. He dubbed his home studio the Sonic Promised Land, and for the next 6 months he knocked out 36 tracks that ultimately became his debut album, The Headphone Masterpiece. Now there have been plenty of DIY albums way before this record, but for me this was the first time that I had seen someone take everything into their own hands, build an entire record playing every single instrument with the exception of a saxophone, and then build it into something that just captured everyone's attention. For someone like myself who always was in a creative headspace, it really opened up the floodgates and helped me understand that I had more control over my artistic vision than I knew I had. This is also the period in my life where I gained an undying appreciation for independent artists. I mean, from a film perspective, I already had that appreciation, you know, when I think about artists such as Spike Lee, Quentin Tarantino, and Paul Thomas Anderson. But from a music standpoint, for you to play every single instrument and not have a band backing you, you just relying on your own creativity, that was very important to me. And I think it's something that really impacted me long term and still affects me to this day. So hopefully that explains the importance as far as how this record impacted me from a creative standpoint. Now let's get into the music. Although the story behind the album is a reason why I hold it to such high regard, it would not be that way if it wasn't for the music itself. The period of desperation that Cody was in during the making of this record is reflected on every single song. He takes his time exploring different genres as if his life depends on it. If this record was going to be the only opportunity he had to display his work to the world, then he was prepared to throw everything at the wall. He's touching everything from psychedelic music, classic rock, R&B, neo-soul, funk, Brit rock, reggae, all kinds of things. At first I was put off by his version of The Seed in comparison to the Roots remix. This is mainly due to the lo-fi aesthetic all throughout the album, but over time I actually began to appreciate that lo-fi aesthetic. It brought a more human quality to the album. For me, it makes the album seem just a little bit more alive. There's an imperfection to it that I really appreciate. The themes that he was able to capture throughout the record really resonated with me, especially as a young teenager. I had a way bigger ego than what I got right now. So I was really fucking with songs like Look Good in Leather, Serve This Royalty, Boy Life in America. Dude had the swag like a Lenny Kravitz or something like that, or Jimi Hendrix. I saw him in that light, eclectic kind of a personality that, had the swag, the ego, and the bravado to carve their own path. He had a song for pretty much every single occasion in my life. If I was smoking with my boys, I would put on Smokin' Love.
The opportunity is now for us to smoke, my brother. So pull out your good leaves, roll it up, and let's toke it together. But you gotta roll it slow, gotta roll it slow, gotta roll it slow.
Even as I've gotten older and had more serious relationships, if there was ever any kind of divide, I would start looking at tracks like Somebody's Parent a little differently. On the flip side, if I was in the middle of mending my relationship, songs like Can We Teach Each Other would always come to mind. For whatever chapter I was turning to in the book of my life, it seemed like Cody ChesnuTT had laid down some sort of a foundation for that book throughout this record. Literally every single situation throughout this record is either a situation that I've been through, was in the middle of, or was headed towards. And that in itself has offered extreme value over time. Overall, the album briefly charted on the Billboard 200 and introduced a new audience to Cody ChesnuTT's work. It captured the attention of the Roots, who wanted to remix the record. It also resonated with Dave Chappelle, who featured Cody ChesnuTT in his 2006 film Block Party. He received the Shortlist Music Prize nomination alongside acts such as the Black Keys and Fluidry. He had a critically acclaimed solo album, a feature on one of the most prominent hip-hop groups' record, and he had traveled the world. Just as all the stars were aligning, he was gone. For 8 years, he had virtually disappeared. He had a few guest spots on a couple of projects, but outside of that, there were no signs of a follow-up solo album. It wasn't until 2010 when he dropped a new project, an EP entitled Black Skin No Value. This project has one of my favorite Cody ChesnuTT tracks on there entitled Everybody's Brother, in which he tells the story of an addict who is reflecting on their mistakes. Someone who has turned their life around for the better and has gravitated towards religion. I remember watching interviews around this time when he was promoting the project. A lot of people were curious as far as his absence and the reasoning behind his hiatus, and they had speculated that he was the character in this song. Fortunately enough, he had explained that this was a general topic. He was detailing a universal situation that a lot of families deal with when it comes down to drug addiction. While he himself during this absence had become a father and a devoted husband, he took time away to build a relationship with his new family, while also seeking to redefine the direction of his music. In 2012, he finally followed up the headphone masterpiece with his second album, Landing on 100, a record that is upbeat in tone and has a cleaner production value. He even included a mixed and mastered version of the track Everybody's Brother. However, I personally prefer the version on Black Skin No Value because it's more stripped down, and I think that stripped down quality really adds to the lyrical impact in that song. 5 years later, in 2017, he dropped his third project entitled My Love Divine Degree, another dope-ass project with standout tracks such as I Stay Ready and This Green Leaf. I've supported every single one of his records and I can't wait to see what he does next. So in conclusion, why do I make this video? Do I expect people to click on this? Hell no. But for myself and knowing that everything that this artist has done for me in the last 20 years of my life, I just want to show some level of appreciation for his art. If you're a Cody ChesnuTT fan, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're not a Cody ChesnuTT fan, I hope this at least sparked your interest so you can go check him out, man. He's off the chain. Peace.